Welcome back to the Empire Sports of Mind podcast. It's a great episode. We're going to be talking about the NHL trade deadline. The Rangers have already made one move. Are there more to follow? We'll discuss it. We're going to discuss the Yankees, spring training updates. We're going to even make some projections on the starting lineup. We're going to discuss NFL free agency, which is just around the corner, and we'll finish off with some Knicks. So, John, let's start with the NHL trade deadline. What do you think? We'll talk about the Rangers, and the move's already been made.
Yeah, some busy day. Wednesday before the Friday trade deadline. Usually you see actually in the NHL, usually you see more of the moves the days leading up to the deadline day. But there's still plenty of players to be dealt. I believe there's a lot of players still available that teams are looking to trade. But today you had, Tarasenko goes to the Florida Panthers. You had Noah Hannafin, I believe, going to and it's crazy because I had to pull up a tracker here. I couldn't keep track of all of it. You have, I think Vegas got Hannafin, right? So, I mean, that was a huge pickup for them.
Yeah. And
They also
Tarasenko, a
got,
lot of people.
they also got Anthony Mantha, the Vegas Golden Knights. So it was a big day for them. Panthers, big day getting Tarasenko for a fourth round pick and a third round pick. I think that was a huge pickup for
Great
them.
deal.
Didn't take that much. I think they retained 50% of the salary there. So I think that was an excellent deal for them. Then you had the Sabres and Avalanche, Middlestat for Byram, kind of like a interesting trade, not really that significant, pretty even. But yeah, Tarasenko was huge, and Hannafin obviously to Vegas, and then you have the Rangers acquiring Wenberg from the Seattle Kraken. So a pretty solid pickup there for the Rangers. Kind of just boosting up their bottom six right there with that move. He's a center. He's probably going to replace Goodrow at that third line center. And I think it makes the team a little better. Doesn't move the needle for me yet. If that's their only move, I don't think it's great. But I think it's, he's a solid pickup, and he helps the team out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously see. One thing that I've looked at this deadline is last year for me. You got Tarasenko, you got Kane, you also threw in Mott there as whatever fourth liner, and ultimately, I mean, you don't know. Kane had the hip issue. I mean, they went to 7 games against the Devils. They should have really won that series, but ultimately it didn't work out. And they got the two best players. I don't know. Obviously, were those players the best players on the market? Not sure. But those are the two biggest names on the market, and they got them. And it didn't really work. And the year before they got Vetrano, Kopp, some smaller names on the market, Mott, and even Ryan Braun. Nico Mikkola last year was a good pickup. And sometimes these smaller pickups can really help the team. Barclay Goodrow has been one of the worst players on the Rangers this year. He's still going to get minutes. I still think he's destined for the fourth line because of his ridiculous contract for a fourth liner. But I think this significantly improves the team on the fourth line, and on the third line, which I think is important. I think this is going to be an underrated pickup. This is somebody that forechecks, back checks, and one thing when playing the assumed favorites, Florida Panthers out of the Eastern Conference, that's a team that has an outstanding penalty kill. They back check, they forecheck, they really put pressure on you, and this is the type of player, Alex Wenberg, that's going to do that. And the Rangers, you look up and down in their roster, sure, they have guys like I think guys like William Cooley are going to be good at that. Even though Rempe, Edstrom, I don't know if they're going to really play after the deadline. But those are guys that forecheck and backcheck. But on the top two lines, they don't really have guys like that, even on the third line. So I think Wenberg is going to provide value in that sense. And I think it's going to be a good fit, which is what guys like Mikkola, Vetrano, Mott, Braun, smaller pickups were. I agree. I don't think it necessarily moves the needle, but I'm not sure who else is. I mean, we can talk about Gensel, obviously, but I'm not sure that getting the biggest name on the market again is necessarily the right move.
Yeah, I just think I'm all for Gensel. I'm all for moving a first round pick, moving Ottman. I don't know. I'm a little hesitant of moving Gabe Perreault because of how he's had a great year. I'm really not willing to part with him yet. But if that's what it takes to get the deal done, I would consider it. I'm just done with that sentiment now. And look, you can look at last year, and you're right, they got the big names. Kane and Tarasenko didn't work out, but I mean, look, the Florida Panthers, presumed favorites, got better today by acquiring Tarasenko. He is still a good player. I think the Rangers maybe misused him last year, and Patrick Kane, I think, can't really look at that because he had that hip issue. He was not the same player. And look, he scored a couple big goals early on in that Devils series, but he really wasn't a guy that was gonna get you. I mean, even if the Rangers went far, that hit would have became more of an issue if they kept playing playoff games. So I think that you have to look at that, yes. But also this year, I mean, you're competing with the Florida Panthers, right? If you think that you could go to the Cup, you're gonna have to get past the Panthers. I most likely, right? Who knows? I mean, the Boston Bruins, they lost in the first round last year. They were the presumed favorites. Who knows? But more likely than not, it's gonna be the Panthers. Panthers got better today. Rangers got slightly better. And I think the Panthers before the trade deadline are I think they're miles better than the Rangers, top to bottom. They have a stacked team. You look at the game that they just played against the Rangers. That was a good test game for the Rangers, right? How did they stack up against the best team in the NHL? They played solid, but you just see that the Florida Panthers just have it. They're better at forechecking. You know, that top line. Sam Reinhart is an absolute monster. I mean, every time that guy's in the ice, you're looking for him to get the puck in the slot and score, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Tkachuk was such a great trade for them. I mean, letting go of Huberdeau, that was a phenomenal trade.
Yeah.
And at the
Wow.
time, people bashed that trade. At the time, people bashed
Yeah.
that trade, saying who they trade with, Flames, right? The
Yeah.
Flames won that
And
deal,
that good
and
defenseman
but
too, Huberdeau and Uyghur, which was a really promising young
yeah,
defenseman.
I mean, what a trade. Tkachuk is one of the best all-around players in the league. You mentioned, I think Sam and Joe mentioned on the broadcast, he's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Panthers scare me. They really do. And that's why I'm all for acquiring Jake Gensel. You have a first line right now for the Rangers. Zibanejad, Kreider, and whoever's on it, VC or Kako, they can't do anything 5-on-5. I mean, Mika Zibanejad just looks lost out there. Kreider, I don't know what it is. Maybe you get to split up Mika and Kreider for the time being. Kako, I don't think belongs on that first line. He's not doing anything in the look. Kako, I like him. Good, defensive player, but he's
Yeah.
not doing anything on he has no business being on a first line if you're going to win the cup. No business being on that line. So if you acquire Gensel, then you have Kreider, Zibanejad, and Gensel, right? I mean, that changes everything. Gensel is a guy who scores 35 goals a year, point per game type player. You're adding another superstar to your team. Yeah, I know it didn't work last year when you had those two superstars, but if you acquire Gensel, I think you could go neck and neck with the Panthers. I think it's a better chance that you could compete with them. And if they got better, you have to get better as well. So that's my take on it. And look, I know that the Canucks are in it. Actually, the Hurricanes are reportedly. I don't see that as much of a fit. I think it's between the Canucks and the Rangers. And if you have to, add that extra draft pick to get it done, I would do it. I'm all for going all in this year, honestly.
Yeah, but I agree with that to some extent. I think that other kind of top line with Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere has been playing really well. It is a top caliber line, and it's been playing like that. And I think we'll see in the playoffs, but I think I think that's a solid line. You don't really mess with that. But to me, the bottom line is the team is only going to go as far as Mika Zibanejad. I think he really needs to improve for the team to make a run. I think that's the key. And you could add another guy, but to me, you saw the Rangers succeed just 2 years ago, make that Eastern Conference Finals run when Mika Zibanejad was at the top of his game. He was really playing well. I mean, he really shut down Crosby those last 2 games. He had the concussion issue, but Zibanejad outplayed Crosby on the first line against the Penguins, and then he had a really good series. He had a really good playoffs that year. And if you're not getting good production out of your number one center, who's getting paid $9 million, and he's not clicking with Kreider. Kreider is Kreider. Like, there's nothing. I think he has his second most career points this year. He's had a decent year. Like, I'm not expecting any more, any less from Kreider. This is who Kreider is. This is who he's been throughout his career. I mean, he's been better on the power play, these past 3 years. But this is Chris Kreider. Like, there's no more room for improvement. The biggest room for improvement is Zibanejad, and that right wing position, unless they make a deadline acquisition, is a weak spot as well, obviously. But if you really get Mika Zibanejad making great passes to Kreider, and then Kreider can finish. That's what he's done well. If he can get that slap shot going, he has been terrible 5-on-5. He just has to be. He has to be better.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's the bottom line. And
he
an
hasn't scored a
acquisition. I don't know if
5-on-5 goal.
that
Yeah.
helps Mika Zibanejad be better. I don't know if an acquisition, because I think even you get a Gensel type. If Zibanejad still sucks, the line's going to suck because he's the center. So I think you can get an acquisition, but it also depends on Zibanejad.
I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, look, Gensel, you're right. Even if they do acquire him, Mika Zibanejad is going to be the driving force of that line. I do think Gensel would help him out, but I mean, the guy hasn't scored a 5-on-5
Sure.
goal since December, like Christmas. I mean, that's like
December
over
23rd.
70 days. I mean, that's like really bad. I mean, you're getting paid $8 million to be your team's first line center. And he's produced up until this year, I believe. This year is very disappointing for him. And look, the
Yeah.
numbers say, I saw people posting, oh, the numbers say that he's been solid this year. No, he's been putrid this year. All those numbers are coming from the power play goals that he sometimes gets, the assists that he gets from other
Yeah.
players
Yeah.
making plays. That's not him.
Mhm.
It's not really him making those plays. He's had a couple good plays throughout the year, right? I mean, they've played 60 games, so you better be making some plays. But for the majority of the season, he's been really disappointing. And I don't know what it is, Matthew. I really don't. That's why I'm not the coach. I would maybe try, even if you get Gensel, split up Kreider and Mika. See if that
Yeah.
has to do with something. Maybe put Gensel with Kreider if they require him. Gensel with Kreider and I don't know, maybe the guy they just Wenberg. Maybe put him at center. See, just experiment. This is the time to experiment. You're in a position where I know you're still fighting for the Hurricanes for first place. They're kind of up our rear and still pose a threat. But this is the time to experiment if you get these guys that you're acquiring at the deadline to fortify those lines for the playoffs.
Yeah, and you know who would be really nice to have? Hedo would be nice to have. I know he's out, but that would be
Yeah,
a
I mean that's a
nice.
huge loss.
I mean, it turns because with Hedo, he's the third line center, and he's not like a checking forward. So the way you build that third line is okay. It's a kind of a third scoring line. But when you have Wenberg as your third center, or Goodrow as your third center, or whoever else they've trotted out there this year, Brodinski, it's not. It becomes less of a scoring line, becomes a checking line, which is what they've kind of embraced by Cooley on the third line, getting Wenberg, VC, Goodrow, all those guys are checking forwards. Not, but you have a guy like Hedel, it really allows you to experiment with the lines.
Yeah.
You move Mika to that third scoring line, and that's still kind of his game. Hedel on the first line, or you move Kreider to that third scoring line with Hedel and somebody else up. So that it really does take away a lot of options because even when you think of splitting up Mika and Kreider, you don't want to touch that Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere line
No.
necessarily, which means one of Mika or Kreider has to move to the third line, checking line. And maybe that even like that's something too. Mika Zibanejad used to be kind of really good at forecheck and backcheck. And Chris Kreider too earlier on in his career. They've been much worse in that aspect. They still kill penalties together and they're okay on the penalty kill, but they have been much worse defensively, Mika and Kreider this year on 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Whenever I see them on the ice, they're in the defensive zone. So that's another thing
Yeah.
that's gotta improve.
I know Mika's like, what is he, 30? He just, to me, looks like an old player that's lost a step. He looks
Yeah.
like a guy that's slow out there. And I don't think I look at you're 30 years old. I mean, how much are you really losing? This should be the prime of your career. He should be
Right.
having a career year this year. I mean, he should be scoring 35 to 40 goals. He should be, having 80 to 90 points at least, right? As your first line center, but not happening this year. And yeah, if you were to split them up, I would put Kreider on that third line. Have Mika still be the first line center. See how that works. Maybe put, I don't know the team. This is why we can't really talk about because I think they're still going to acquire a pretty big name. I think they're still going to look for that right winger to fill out their lineup, the first line right winger.
Mm-hmm.
And Buchnevich is still available. I don't know how likely that is. Because Chris Drury did trade him. Does he really want to, acquire him back?
Trade him for
It's
peanuts.
it's a little bit of an awkward situation
Yeah.
there. But look, that's part of the job too. You have to admit sometimes you were wrong, right? And
Mm-hmm.
right your wrongs by reacquiring him because of how good he's been. I would really love to see that. All other names that are still become available is like Lindholm, who the Canucks actually acquired. And if they
Yeah, I
get
saw that
Gensel,
as well.
they're looking to flip his salary. So maybe look, if you don't get Gensel, you take Lindholm from the Canucks as
Mhm.
as part of like a 3-team trade there. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think that's a pretty solid pickup for your first line there. But there's some interesting names available. I think the Rangers are still going to look. We'll see. I think Chris Drury has to be very aggressive this year because look, the league is open. It's the Panthers that you're most scared of. Other teams you could beat, and
Mhm.
it's very rare that there are years like this that you could just go for it. And sometimes you have to mortgage the future, Matthew. You have to win eventually, right? You have to go for it. And look, I know they went for it last year, but they didn't really trade prime level prospects. They just traded a couple first round picks, but not like prime level prospects.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is the time I think to do it. We'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
what stuff materializes.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing too. I wouldn't be surprised, and nobody's really talking about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they acquire a seventh defenseman or sixth defenseman, a really
Oh yeah,
stay-at-home defenseman. No, first of all, defense has been. I mean, it's hard to look at because they've been winning games, but the defense has not been great lately. Giving up a lot of shots on goal. I mean, Igor's really bailed them out, really stepped up in recent games. I mean, had that really atrocious kind of goal against Florida, but has otherwise been fantastic. Also quick, getting extended, playing well. But they've been kind of bailed out by goaltending again, like they were in the beginning of the season. But to me, defensively, Even somebody like Gustafson, really good early in the year, a known offensive
Yeah.
defenseman. I'm wondering if, and also Zach Jones, offensive defenseman. I'm wondering if they're looking to at least get, from a team that's out of it for no, like a fifth round pick or something, just a stay at home defenseman, somebody who can't contribute offensively. But
Yes. And
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And I don't know if he replaces Gustafson necessarily, but it gives you an option because that line with Schneider has been questionable recent games. But I
oh,
don't
it's
know if
been.
that's a, but yeah, that's a
I
possibility.
think, and you talk about the defense. I think the whole defense has been kind of suspect recently. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Trouba's playing as well as he did in the beginning of the season. I think he's probably been one of the best defensemen from a consistency standpoint this season.
Yeah.
But I think Keandre Miller's been very bad recently. I think
Mm-hmm.
he's had a couple good games sprinkled in there, but a couple really bad games,
He's not
just really
consistent
bad
out there.
gaffes. Yeah, there's
Mm-hmm.
been some really bad plays he's made. I think he's just like sometimes a little too. I don't think he's the smartest player. Maybe I don't know. Like he gets a little too overconfident. He makes like just
Yeah.
bad plays. And look,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing is, like, he is such a fast skater. You don't realize he's like he can compete with Chris Kreider for the fastest guy on the team. Like he
Mm-hmm.
is so fast, so quick, and I feel like he doesn't use that as much as he should. Because when you see him like exit the zone, he's a menace. He drives to the net. He's a menace, and no one can stop him.
He's
I feel like
great
he has to use
size.
his
Mhm.
size and speed more. He doesn't use it as
Yeah.
much as he should.
I mean,
He has a
Keandre
lot.
Miller and Braden Schneider are first round picks, like for a reason. And we always kind of thought, oh, they would eventually kind of develop. Even like Kako and Lafreniere, but we thought they would develop into really good defensemen, and they've kind of been stagnant throughout their whole careers. Like Keandre Miller is kind of the same player that he was 3 years ago when he came up,
Yeah,
and Braden Schneider too. I mean, they're decent players. They're NHL caliber players for sure, but they're not like first pair defensemen yet, which is a
no,
little disappointing. And no, yeah, Miller has those gaffes. No, sometimes Truba has those gaffes as well. And also, even Lindgren is just kind of
yeah,
limited. Like, he's, I mean, I don't know. He's a little undersized.
I think if I mean,
Lindgren is
look,
just limited out there sometimes too. He's not offensive at all. He is stay-at-home defenseman, but he's not necessarily like a great defensive player either. So he's in a weird position as well. But so I think defensively they have some. I think all of their guys are NHL caliber players. I'm just not sure if it's like the elite group that maybe we thought it would be a couple years back.
I think if Lindgren wasn't with Fox his whole career, I think it would look a little bit differently. I think he's still
Yeah.
a solid, tough player, but if he was with somewhere else without, one of the league's best defensemen paired with, I don't think he would look. I don't think he, would get the praises he does. I think he's been pretty poor recently. I think Fox has really stepped up his game recently. I think he
He's
had
been
the
solid.
beginning of the season. I don't think he was living up to his capabilities, but now he really is. I mean, he's making play after play. He's
Yeah, I have no
unbelievable to
problem
watch.
with the way
Yeah,
Fox
he's been
plays.
great. So
Yeah,
goaltending's been solid, right? Igor against the Panthers, it was all right. He actually gave up that really bad goal to,
that was a
but
terrible
other
goal.
than that,
But yeah.
yeah, bad goal. Probably the worst goal he's given up in since the winning streak, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
nothing really to complain there. He's been better. They actually signed Jonathan Quick to another year. I think that was a good move.
Mhm.
Keep him for one more year.
Yeah,
Well deserved contract. Got over
definitely.
$1 million, so better than the minimum that which he got last offseason. So good
Mhm.
for him. And that's huge to have it in this league nowadays, Matthew. These goalies you don't play 70 games now. You don't play 75 games that Lundqvist did or, Victor did. The goalies don't play. Now it's more of like a 60-40 split. And you need a good backup goalie to have a successful season. And I think it's important to, solidify that backup role, which what they did with Quick. And he's embraced playing in New York. He's been awesome. He really
Mhm.
has been. So I'm happy to
Yeah,
have him stay.
definitely agreed. I mean, to me, it was a no-brainer. No, you look at what he signed for the minimum this year, and has played like a top five goalie when he's been out there, really. And you're right. It's different in terms of the way that the amount of games goalies play, and it's important to have a good backup now. I mean, it used to remember the Rangers had Martin
Yeah,
Biron.
wouldn't matter.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
it
they would
simply
have
wouldn't cut it in today's league. It wouldn't. The Rangers had terrible backups,
no.
and then they eventually kind of figured out once Talbot came along. Then they've had great goaltending ever since, backup goaltending. But it's different. It's nice to even have a third guy like Ming, who I think it would be capable. I
Yeah.
think he'd be fine as a backup if you threw him in there. But yeah, well deserved for Quick. Another year, happy to have him around, and yeah, Igor. The overall goaltending, it's been so interesting because the goaltending started off at such a high level, then it really dropped down to a low level. I think Igor Shesterkin had like the worst month in hockey out of goaltending in January, and then now it's back up to a really good level again. So hopefully that continues. I think that's also, Mika Zibanejad and goaltending. Goaltending is always a key for the Rangers, kind of in the playoffs because they don't score 5-on-5 really. And I mean, we'll see.
We'll see, Matthew. What happens? Buchnevich Gensel, I'd be excited for either, or even like a guy that we haven't been talking about. Maybe Jury has something up his sleeve, so we'll see what happens there.
Mhm.
Move on now to the Yankee spring training. Pretty so far so good for Juan Soto, at least, right? I mean, he's been
Yeah,
unbelievable in spring training. I mean, I think his average is what, a 680 right now through 5 games, whatever he's
it
played.
was
Unbelievable.
700 at one point today.
I mean, just an unbelievable start for him. Couldn't ask for a better start. Everyone else's looks solid. Not I don't really take too much stock into the hitting stats. One weekend. As it starts to get going, I mean, if you have Stanton still hitting, under
Right. Yeah.
100, by the time a week before the regular season, I'm going to be concerned. But right now, everyone's fine. No one's gotten hurt so far. Matthew, you have to cross our fingers with that because the Yankees have notoriously had horrendous injury luck, especially in spring training, guys going down for the season, and hopefully nothing like that happens. And Rodon had a little bit of a rough start today, but look, I'm not looking into that as well. Yeah, I mean, Yamamoto gave up 5 runs today for the Dodgers, so I mean, you're gonna call him a bust now. So I don't take too much stock into the pitching early on. So, but so far so good, no injuries. That's you really can't complain.
Yeah, no injuries is the key thing. I mean, I'm looking at certain players. I'm looking at players who need bounce back years, how they're doing in the spring. Even Stanton. Stanton does this every spring. Like he needs like the 50 at bats. Even when he comes off the IL, when he
Mhm.
comes off the IL, he's going to be horrible because he hasn't seen live pitching. So for me, like for somebody like Stanton, I'm not looking at the stats. I'm looking at like how many at bats can you get him, and does he start hitting maybe towards the end of spring, maybe. Otherwise, no, everyone else, no, and you like to obviously shout out guys like Soto, even Rizzo's had a really nice spring.
Oh yeah.
Offensively, if they have a really nice spring, you take note. But if they have a bad spring, doesn't really matter. But
Mhm.
I disagree a little bit with Rodon. Rodon didn't look good today, and also I heard something like he was playing like the single A affiliate for the Yankees, like live batting, live whatever it is at bats, and he gave up like 4 home runs in an inning, and then
Oh
they
boy.
asked him afterwards. He's like, "Well, better this than other team. Those guys are here for a reason," which is
Oh my
true.
god.
But he gave up 2 home runs today as well. I think this is going to be a problem, Rodon. I mean, if he
Yeah, I
can't
mean,
get the pitchers, in the spring, the pitchers should be way ahead of the hitters. The hitters haven't seen
no, you're
live
right.
live pitching. Somebody like, I mean, even you've seen at the Yankees, last 3 starts, Stroman, Schmidt, and I think Cortez all had 4 inning shutout starts in the past 3 games.
Mhm.
And the pitchers are really ahead of the hitters. It's hard to hit a 100-mile fastball if you haven't swung a
Yeah,
bat the past
and the
all winter. So I think Rodon's performance is a little concerning, but otherwise, the big thing is no injuries. I have to reiterate that. I agree
yeah.
with you.
And the thing with spring training is like usually the first 2 outings, usually the pitchers will pitch like 90% fastball. They're not going to do off speed, and
Yeah,
that's what
that's
Cole did. Like the other night, he just pitched all fastballs. I think maybe he had a couple off speed pitches. So these guys are
Mhm.
knowing what's going to come. Gave up a few bombs, but who really puts too much stock into that? But
Yeah,
Carlos Rodon, you're saying he's just pitching fastball, but he's a 2 pitch pitcher. You hope that the fastball is good, right? I mean, he has that slider that's out of control, so he's probably going to pitch like this season 70% fastball, and it doesn't look as it did when he was with the Giants. It doesn't have that same life to it. And
Mhm,
and look, I just said I wasn't concerned, but you are right. I'm starting to get a little concerned, right? I mean, you
mhm.
paid this guy a lot of money to come and pitch here, and he's not the guy that they thought they were getting. He's
No.
just not. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe the injury last year is gonna, harm him for the rest of his career. I don't really know, but Carlos Rodon is still a question. Matthew, he's a question mark. The rotation itself is a question mark outside of Cole. In my opinion, you have the Cy Young winner, then you have Cortez, who said it, took a while for his shoulder to build up. Rodon, still the injury concern, and the fastball not, being as live as it was. Stroman, I think Stroman, I'm honestly most confident in, outside of Cole. Stroman, I think he's going to give you, 180 innings. And this is a preview I think he's going to give you a lot of innings and have a, ERA around 4, which is what you want out of a 3
Mhm.
or 4 starter. I think he's going to be good. And then Cortez and Rodon have no idea what the heck is. And I think Clark Schmidt will be all right for the 5th starter. But those 2 guys, I have no idea what to expect. And it's a
Yeah, I
concern.
think I agree. I mean, even cold spring training out, I don't take any stock into that.
Yeah,
The
no.
track record, you're going to really pay attention to one spring outing. He's throwing only fastballs. He won the Cy Young last year. Like But no, Rodon is a prove it guy, so you have to look at that with a certain level of scrutiny. But I agree. I think the key specifically is Rodon and Cortez. I agree. I think Stroman's going to be fine, and I think Schmidt's going to be fine as a number 5 starter too. I think he might have a good year actually, and but I think I agree. Honestly, I don't know if it's a matter. I don't even know if like Rodon is healthy. Even at the end of last year, he was terrible. It's not like he was just like an
Yeah.
injury wash away season. When he was out there, he sucked. He had what a 7
Yeah.
something ERA. That's terrible. So I agree with you that this is somebody who threw what 97, 98 in San Francisco. A lot of movement. The slider was really sweeping, whatever. I don't know if it's a sweep or a slider, whatever it is. And you're right. His best pitch was the fastball. Now it's down to like 92. It doesn't. You
It's
throw
like,
a
come
92
on.
mile an hour fastball right down the middle, it's going to get crushed. And you're a lefty, so if you're a righty hitter, you have a great view at that fastball. And he doesn't have anything that plays off of that fastball against a righty, which is going to be a problem because you throw backdoor sliders against a righty. Like, I don't really know what he's going to. I don't know how he pitches to righties, quite frankly, because he has
Yeah, I
one
know,
pitch.
honestly.
I can see how he's good lefty, and that's about it. Maybe
I
he
mean,
should move to the bullpen
yeah.
and be a lefty specialist for 30 whatever million
You're
dollars.
right. I mean, look, usually right, Matthew. What differentiates between a starter and a bullpen guy is how much pitches you have. He has 2 pitches, Matthew. I mean, develop a changeup, develop a cutter. I mean, do something. Matt Blake, I mean, with all these analytics, maybe he could, cook up something from the, develop. I mean, there's
Mhm.
no answer. It's a fastball that you're right. I mean, if it stays at 92, even like 95, it stays from 92 to 95, with 95 being the max, he's going to give up maybe 40 home runs this year. It's going to be an
Mhm.
absolute disgrace. I don't know. I have no confidence in him, but we'll see. Matthew, I guess that leads us into our player projections.
Yeah.
We're going to go over the whole lineup for the Yankees this year, and we'll do the rotation and bullpen in our next episode. But lineup, excited to talk about it. The 2 new faces, Verdugo and Soto, really just I like that. I'm very confident in this lineup this year. I really am. I guess I'll get started.
Yeah.
Leading off, I have DJ. This is not what I want. This is what I expect opening day. I think he's going to lead off. And I'm not really too high on him this year. I mean, had a good end to the season. We talked about good end to the season last year. Not really much of
Yeah.
a good.
Mediocre.
I mean, what
Yeah.
7? Yeah, maybe he improved his OPS. 100 points, but other than that, not really special. This year I have him batting 260, 730 OPS, and 15 home runs. I mean, I'm really not high on him, and those numbers are not going to keep you in the leadoff spot, especially when you are as slow as DJ LeMahieu, not providing any value to the base paths and stealing bases. So I have him with those stats. Matthew, who's your leadoff hitter?
Yeah, I think it's going to be DJ as well. I just think there's no way around it. I think DJ is going to be replaced at one point. I think that's going to be nobody's talking about it, but the Yankees they don't have a backup third baseman, quite frankly, right now. That's going to become a pressing need if DJ struggles at the trade deadline, getting a third baseman. And I have him hitting it like 235. That's what I have him hitting. I don't think the bat's the same. What is he? 35, 36? I don't think he's the same player that he was. I have 12 home runs. You have 15. I think that's around what he's done over the past 3 years. He had those 2 really special years in 2019, 2021, third place in the MVP. But other than that, his past 3 years have been eerily similar. I think he's got 3 more years on his contract too, which is I think that's going to be a problem. What is it, 15 million a year? But John is having technical difficulties. I'll keep going. And that totals out to 730 OPS. So he's going to be replaced. No, 708. I have OPS. I think he's going to be replaced. I've been playing 110 games. Trade deadline acquisition for a third baseman. He's hasn't shown anything the past 3 years, quite frankly. I know 2019, 2020 was great. Past 3 years have all been mediocre at best. I don't see him suddenly jumping back and being a great player again.
Matthew, who's this player that you were just talking about? I'm sorry. I had some.
Yeah, I was still talking about DJ. I was going on and on.
Okay. Yeah. I completely agree with you there. Next, I have Soto batting in the 2 hole. I think he's going to have an absolute monster year, potential MVP candidate. The only thing holding Soto back from the MVP, he hasn't won one in his career, I think, is his fielding ability. That adds, doesn't add really
Mhm.
much value with the WAR that they look at for MVP. So that kind of hurts him. But I have him batting 305 this year. a 1050 OPS and 42 home runs. I think in a walk year, he's just gonna explode. He's 25 years old, doesn't turn 26 until next year. And I think the Yankees have to, after this season, this solidifies that you have to lock him up. And the reports out there that the Mets are going to push hard for him this offseason. Can't let that happen. Can't let the Mets get this guy. You traded for him a decent amount. You gave up Michael King, which I thought was, a decent amount. Give up, your basically your whole pitching farm, right? Your top guys there. So you have to re-sign him. He is just a generational player, and you have to make this guy a Yankee for life, or else it's I think an embarrassment. So hopefully, big
Mhm.
year ahead for Soto. Really excited to watch him play.
Yeah, agreed. I have him hitting 300 as well. I think you have 42 home runs. I have 41.
Yeah.
I think we both
Okay.
agree. Walk year, generational talent. Obviously, we keep hearing that, and he's gonna have a great year. I mean, I have him playing 155 games. You don't see injuries like this in a walk year. You don't see the sore quads, or that doesn't happen in a walk year. You're fighting for every penny. So I agree. I think the one thing to watch, I don't think I have any doubts about sitting. I agree with you. The fielding is something to watch. I think if Stanton is really struggling, hitting, which kind of like last year, I think you might see Soto move to DH. I think you might then Verdugo slides over. If Grisham's playing well, he'll play center field. Judge and right, Verdugo and left, Soto DH. That's something to watch. But offensively, I have no. I don't think it's even like a storyline. I think he's just going to be great, and that's going to be it.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm a little scared of is if he doesn't get off to a great start in April, people booing. I just don't let that happen, please. I mean, if he like Stanton got booed in his first game as a Yankee because he struck out 5 times. I mean, look at Warren Sick. I think it was a rain game, so those fans were sitting in the rain and watching their new star player, strike out 5 times. I get the frustration, but be patient with this kid, man. I mean, he's gonna deliver, and if he doesn't, I'll be very shocked. I think it's 99% he's gonna have a great year. So be patient. If he has a slow start in April from the cold weather, just don't boo him, please. I mean, that'll be a
Mhm.
disgrace.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Let's
right,
move on
Judge.
to Judge.
I can start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do
No,
Judge.
you go. It's
Um,
your lineup.
yeah. So Judge, I have 285, 980 OPS, and 48 home runs. I mean, every year this guy is a threat to break his own record. That 62 mark, right? Last year he was on pace for another 50 plus home run season. Don't think he gets there this year, but I think it's still possible. It's kind of hard to predict a 50 home run season is. It's very hard to do, right? But obviously with him, it's
Mhm.
possible every year. The one thing with Judge is like stay healthy. I mean, I know last year wasn't his fault. A lot of the injuries he's had in his career, the broken ribs from diving for a ball, the concrete injury last year with his toe, which is still a thing that he has to monitor, which kind of sucks. But just stay healthy. Got to have some good luck with injuries. He's a big guy, so I mean, look, the risk for injury is pretty high. But just have I want him to play 150 games. I think that's a goal for him, and that'll be great if he does. And he's gonna be an MVP candidate for as long as he's on the Yankees, I believe. And I'm excited for another big season from Judge. Hopefully in the playoffs he can deliver because that's something that he's kind of lacked with so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think if he plays 150 games, he's going to hit 50 home runs. He's going to be an MVP candidate. Um, I think just the injuries. I think when you're, whether it's his fault or not, like when the oblique injury, I guess that's like the big one where he missed like 2 months for an oblique injury. What was that 2019? I
Yeah.
just think injuries are kind of just inevitable when you're 6'8". You have that type of frame. Just accidents happen. I mean, it's just hard to explain. I mean, if I was 6'8", I could just see myself getting injured. So, I think I think he's going to play a significant portion of the season. I've been playing 130 games, but that includes an IL stint, 130 games. I have 270. I think the average goes a little bit down. Just, I just think, um, the walk year 62 home runs. I don't think that's he's going to necessarily be able to repeat that. I think that the standards are set so high. I have him at 270, 45 home runs, 988 OPS in 130 games. That's a great year, but even the Aaron Judge standards are so high that I'm not sure people would be like thrilled with that, quite frankly. And
Yeah.
I think people should be. I think that's a great year. I think people want to hit 362 home runs, 1.2 OPS, every year, and that's simply not. That's an all-time season ever. So let's tone down our expectations a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next, I have Anthony Rizzo in the 4th spot, and I think the Yankees are going to go mainly right, left, right, left, right, left. You'll see the
Yep.
theme that I'm going with here. Rizzo has had a great spring so far, right? I mean, the post concussion Rizzo has been pretty promising so far in spring. Have him with 255 average, a 810 OPS and 24 home runs. I think that's for him great year. I think after coming back from that really bad injury last year, didn't let the Yankees know that he was feeling those symptoms until like August, I believe, which really hurt the team. Don't really like that he did that, but I mean it's a tough situation there. Can't really blame any side there, but it is what it is. Hopefully he's past that now. And has a great season for the Yankees. I think that his defense at first base is very important for them. It's been a while since they had a good defender at first, probably since like Mark Teixeira. He wasn't even that great. So Rizzo's been, his
Yeah,
defense
yeah.
provides a lot for the team. And if he has this type of offensive season, huge for the Yankees, huge.
Yeah, agreed. The defensive, I think that's a given defensively. I think he's going to be very good, which is important. It helps the infielders. It helps all of them. Even Volpe spikes the ball. Rizzo makes the scoop, or he doesn't make the scoop. That's an error on Volpe, not Rizzo. So having him make those scoops is important. But I think that one thing to watch with Rizzo is we saw in the beginning of last year, a big storyline was the shift is gone. Does Rizzo going to benefit from that? And he really did for those first 2 months. I think his average was 300 through 2 months, and the year
Yeah,
before it was 200 with whatever he had 32 home runs though, so it ended up being a solid year. What he finished with the concussion, obviously it happened. It has to factor into the calculus, but with the shift, with no more shift anymore, he really benefited from that. So I like how you have a kind of higher average. I have 260 as well, close to what you had. 22 home runs, 790 OPS, 125 games. I think he's going to get injured. I think he has the back issues. I just think he's not as young as he used to be. The back issues are a thing every year at this point. I don't think
yeah,
it's going to be a concussion, but no, he's old. But I think this is a solid year. I think the defense is a big thing, which we have to mention that again. But I think this is a solid
yeah.
year. I don't know. I don't know where the infield depth is, quite frankly, because the backup first baseman to me is DJ LeMahieu still, but they don't have a backup third baseman really. I mean,
Mhm.
Oswaldo Cabrera, is that the backup third baseman?
Yeah, I
Can he play
mean,
first base?
Peraza probably.
Peraza,
Probably
that's
a
that's a good
Peraza there,
point.
but
But Peraza doesn't play first base, so I mean,
no.
I think the infield depth is a real problem when looking at this. But I,
Yeah,
I agree with this lineup so far. DJ Soto, Judge
yeah.
Rizzo.
Next one, I have Torres, second base, in his walk year as well. So, I mean,
Yeah.
interesting story to follow there. I mean, he said in a press conference that he would like to remain a Yankee for life. He said that. And the Yankees, I don't know if they have interest in extending him, Matthew. I mean, especially if they're going to pay Soto this big money this offseason. Does Hausheimer have enough, to stomach another big contract, kind of semi big contract with Torres? I don't know. Maybe they let him walk. And I don't know if I would like to see that because at second base, look, you could get on him a little bit with laziness, and sometimes it looks like he's lost out there. And look, it happens, right? It's a long season. There's going to be those plays, but for the most part, he was probably one of the best second basemen hitting wise last year, and the defense
Mhm.
wasn't a problem. At second base, it's not a problem when he's that short. It was, but at second base, it's not a problem. And I have him hitting 265, 820 OPS, and 27 home runs, which would be another great year for him at second base. And he's going to demand, pretty big money if he had that type of year. And we'll see if the Yankees keep him. I don't think they will at this point.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna explain I have the same exact statistics as John. I just have him hitting
Yeah.
a little higher at 2 to 85. We agree. Walk year, big Tor. No, I think it's gonna be a big year for him. No, Torres. When you watch him, I think he's one of the most talented hitters I've ever seen. Honestly, though I don't even think he has a good swing, and he's still able to put up these numbers. The way he picks up his knee,
Yeah.
a lot of moving parts in his swing. He's so naturally gifted that he's able to do that. We always talk about Torres is at his best when he's pushing the ball the other way. He gets pull happy. That's a problem. He's such a naturally when he's playing his best, such a gifted hitter. And I think this year Walker is going to be motivated. I think the defense, it's just a bit of a question mark, kind of how much he wants it defensively. But I think I think there's just extra motivation this year. Overall, the team, I think it's the window's kind of closing with guys like Cole and Judge. Feeling the pressure of that, but also specifically for Torres. walk year, so he'll have a nice year. And I think defensively he'll be above average, which he has been actually the past 2 years.
All right, Matthew. Next, Verdugo at left field. So I mean, like that pickup was a very, surprising one, right? And it seemed like the judge has asked the Yankees to acquire this player for 2 years now, right? It's very interesting that he's wanted Verdugo. I guess they're kind of friends off the field, but it's very interesting. I mean, the guy has an edge to him. Whereas the chains, the 5 chains, I don't know how many chains he has on when he's playing. It's a lot, but look, I think he's going to benefit a lot from the short portion of Yankee Stadium. I really think that, he's a solid hitter to have in your lineup. Last year, the Yankees lineup was not deep, Matthew. From 1 to 4, it was solid, 1 to 5, but then after that, it was really bad. You had some putrid hitters at the ends of the order here with like 600 OPSs. So having Verdugo at the 6th spot is going to be really nice. I have him at 264, 750 OPS, and 20 home runs. So if he does that at the 6th spot, that's going to really help the Yankees a lot this year. To have a guy that is a power threat kind of at the middle of your order, and also a guy that could get on base, hit with men on base because his average is usually pretty high. I think it's like 280 for his career. And it's gonna be nice to have him on your team. I really think he's gonna be a solid addition for the Yankees.
Yeah, no, Verdugo is a contact bat. I think this. I don't really see the power this year. I see him having a nice average. I have him hitting 285. I think that
Wow.
this is. I think this is what he's best at. I think he's an average hitter kind of. I think the Yankees are going to tell him. They're going to specifically say, "No, forget about home runs. We want you to hit. We really want you to hit for average." Because you look at the rest of the lineup, and there aren't besides Soto, which is a given. There, I think that having somebody like Verdugo that hits for average is going to be important, kind of in this lineup. Kind of what DJ used to do a little bit even. But so I think I have him at 285, 17 home runs, 791 OPS, 135 games. I don't think he gets injured. The outfield, rotation is just going to be crowded. That he's going to get a lot of days off. I think that's just going to be the way it is. They want to play Grisham for whatever reason. So, but I think this is like you said before coming on, this would be a year that we're happy with Verdugo. And I think ultimately, I think Verdugo might end up being the leadoff hitter at some point, rather early in the season, quite frankly. And then you move Judge to number 2, Soto to number 3, and you still have the left-right split. But if DJ struggles and Verdugo is doing and Verdugo's better speed, obviously, as an outfielder, I think you might see Verdugo lead off.
I like it. Next, we have Stanton, a player that I'm not really high on this year, Matthew. I mean, last year had a really bad year, was injured yet again. What a surprise there. I just think that, look, he says the right things in the press conferences. He delivered in the postseason, but I mean, that's not really a big sample size. Look, you can't really bash him for it, but right now I bash him for he's getting paid a lot of money and he gets hurt every single year. I mean, it just doubts my, what I feel about the weight room. This guy is constantly in the weight room, has so much muscle, and he can't run to first base. He can't run to a ball in the outfield. I mean, it's embarrassing for an athlete of his caliber. He can't do those things. You always have to watch out that he's going to pull a hamstring. I mean, it's actually really embarrassing. And I don't know. And look, this year they said he slimmed down. I highly doubt that. Until he gets on the scale in front of me, I want to see that muscle percentage, whatever, decrease over the offseason. I don't believe anything that they say. He looks a little slimmer. But Matthew, every time he runs, there is a threat that something, pulls, sprains, whatever, just pops, right? I mean, there's a threat of that. And hopefully he stays healthy, because at the 7th spot, if you have Stanton healthy, even if he has not a great Stanton year, it's still, solid for your lineup to have that power at the end of the order. But I have no confidence of him staying healthy. So I have him at 220, an average that's very low because he's going to get hurt a lot, in my opinion. I'm not rooting for him, just predicting it. And when you said, Matthew, once he comes off the IL, he cannot hit a baseball. The guy looks like he has never played a game in his life. So I have a low average there. I have 720 OPS and 18 home runs. So probably have him playing, a little less than half of the games there. So yeah, not really expecting much from him this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. No, Stanton is somebody that I'm rooting for. He's always been accountable as a Yankee. You have to appreciate that. But I hate the propaganda around Stanton. Like you mentioned, they say he slimmed down. I look at him, maybe he slimmed down 5 pounds. And then I see the next thing, his stance is significantly altered. And then I watch the first game of Stanton. That's the same. I hate the propaganda. It's so annoying. Stanton is is maybe the most unathletic player I've ever seen play baseball.
He's the
How
most
is it possible?
unathletic athletic player. Unathletic athletic. I mean, the guy's
Yeah,
jacked, right? Isn't that like
exactly.
I don't get it. It doesn't make
There's not I
sense.
mean, he rips the ball off the bat, and then it's a gapper, and you have no clue. It splits the gap right down the middle, and you have no clue if he's gonna make it to second base alive, quite frankly. You have no clue. Something might explode in his leg, you have no clue. And, defensively, first of all, he's a horrible defender. He's absolutely
Yeah.
terrible. The routes he takes to the ball, it's a simple fly ball,
Oh
and it's
my
like, he needs to make a diving play to catch it. I don't understand. He doesn't know how to track a fly ball. I track a fly ball better
I
than
don't
him. And,
know.
um, also, he doesn't have an ar I mean, all the weightlifting he does, his arm sucks. He can't play the field. He can't run.
Yeah, I don't
So, I don't know. I am not I mean, I am rooting for him because he's accountable, and maybe he did take steps to be more athletic and, slim down, but I have him at, 213. I had him I'm reducing this. I had him at I'm putting him at 22 home runs. I think he just hits home runs, and that's kind of he'll still do it. 718 OPS and 120 games
mm,
played. That's an
it's
IL
kinda the
stint.
same.
That's him getting benched for a week. That's the IL stint, him coming back, and you're right, looking like he's never seen a baseball before, or that he's a single A player facing a Cy Young winner. So I'm not optimistic on Stanton this year.
I know. No, I completely agree with that, and hopefully, look, if he's, even half of what he was, I think it's a bonus for the lineup because I think of how he's either gonna be 6 or 7 in the lineup, it's interchangeable what they're gonna do, even if they want that righty-lefty split, but we'll see. I think it's a bonus if you get, honestly, anything from him, to be honest with
Mhm.
you. I don't think they have to really rely on him as they did with the addition of Soto, but next I have Austin Wells, first year for him starting. I don't think is he still still considered a rookie because he only played what?
Yeah,
Like
rookie.
10 games last what did he play? 20 games last year?
Yeah, he's a
Didn't look
rookie.
great. I don't really know his
He's
stats exactly, but I'm high on him, right? I mean, he's a lefty guy in Yankee Stadium. It's been so long, Matthew, since the Yankees have had the opportunity to have the lefty righty split down the order, right? I mean, they've always been righty dominant. Now they have half and half, which is nice to see, especially when you play in a spot like Yankee Stadium. It's very important. Austin Wells has some pop. Defensively, I don't know too much. I don't think he's a problem. I mean, he's not a problem that you have with Gary Sanchez. He's not as good as Trevino, but he's not going to be a liability in defensively. And
Mhm,
actually, Garrett Cole was praising him the other day, saying that he calls games phenomenal. He calls phenomenal
mhm,
games. So that's high praise from the Cy Young Award winner. So you trust him there, right? So Austin Wells, I have him at 235, which is good for a catcher. I would be very happy
mhm.
with that. 730 OPS at 15 home runs. So something
Yeah.
similar to like Volpe's OPS last year. As a rookie, I think rookie catcher, I think that's phenomenal. I think he would. I think he's only up from there. I'm actually pretty high on him as a player. His career trajectory overall. So I'm excited to see Wells
Mhm.
play.
Yeah, this is a guy that can hit. We've heard through the farm system, like, a catcher that can hit. That's a big advantage. But defensively, that's always been the concern. I didn't see it in the 30 games that whatever he played last year. He
Yeah,
seemed fine to me. If you really want defensively, they'll split a little bit with Trevino. Trevino will play, for that kind of his defensive capabilities. But half of the battle defensively, which is what Garrett Cole praised him for, is pitch calling. That's half of the job defensively. So no, I think that's a learned skill. Obviously, he's put effort into that. So I think he's going to be fine. I mean, even like somebody like Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez sucked physically, defensively. Pass balls, this drops that, and couldn't lazy like he was like, sitting on. I don't know even what he was doing, but Wells, to me, the pitch sequencing is much better. I would have to agree with Cole on that. Even Sanchez, sometimes you would look and be like, why is he calling for that pitch? Like that pitch is not working
yeah,
today. So I think he's going to be. I think he's going to have a good year. I have him at 244, even higher than you.
I
16
like
home
that.
runs, 729 OPS. So the OPS falls in a similar category. 95 games played. He's because the Yankees catchers. I think they've decided they just want to kind of split. But that's a really good year. That's a really good year. I think I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to watching him this year too. Lefty, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's great. And then rounding up the order, we have Anthony Volpe at shortstop. Rookie season, look, he still had 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. He won the Gold Glove. Um, that's an accomplishment there. But hitting wise, he wasn't what you thought he was going to be. And look, he was a rookie, so give him some leeway. Hopefully, he improves this year. I have him improving slightly this year. 245. average, 750 OPS, and 24 home runs. So I think he still provides that pop, potentially going up to the leadoff spot if DJ struggles because of his speed. I think he'll have, over 30 stolen bases Volpe this year. I think they're really going to have him steal a lot of more bases than he did last year, which I think they should take advantage of. His speed is unbelievable, and he distracts the pitchers tremendously too. I mean, he's such a menace there. And look, Volpe, with these set numbers, I'd be happy for him. Look, after the first year, I think my expectations has dwindled down a little bit. He was what was he, Matthew? He got up to like what, top 5 prospect of all baseball. So you expect big things, but after seeing that first year, I'm all right. If he provides like this from the 9-hole, potentially leadoff spot, I'm fine with that. Especially with the speed he has in the defense at shortstop. So we'll see.
I mean, yeah. What else is new? The Yankees overhyped their prospects. I mean, I can't trust anything they say, quite frankly. Honestly, John, I'm looking at this, and this is not the. I'm looking at your projections, and I don't think this is the player that I want Volpe to become. I don't want him to become like a power hitter. Honestly, I think he's somebody that has the tools to be another high average guy. And, average guy hits 15, 20 home runs like he did last year. I don't necessarily want or need him to hit more the home runs than he hit last year. I want more stolen bases. I think he has the capability to have 30 stolen bases. I have him projected at 27, but I want him to hit 270 with not this year, but like maybe in 2 years, I want him to hit 275 with 20 home runs, 30 stolen bases, 800 OPS, and really good fielding. And that's great from a shortstop. That's excellent. That's fantastic. But this year, I think he's going to eventually get there. But this year, I have him 230, which is improvement. He was hit like 200 last year. He shouldn't be hitting 200. That's a bit of a problem. 17 home runs, which is a little bit down, but I'm okay with that. 27 stolen bases, which is nice. But I have him. I didn't write specifically his on base percentage, but I think that's going to be much better this year because I think he has a plus I. It totals out to 730 OPS in 155 games played. He's going to play a lot.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, Matthew. That was very fun, the player projections. Next time we'll have all the pitchers on the staff and in the bullpen. So we're going to move on now to a little NFL talk. Can't go out podcast without some football talk. And that leads us into the free agency period starting next week. So I'm very excited for that. Some big news from the Jets. Not big, but minor news. They cut Laken Tomlinson and tight end CJ Uzama. Thank God. He was terrible this year. And Laken Tomlinson, look, he stayed healthy, but when he was on the field, wasn't great. I mean, it wasn't what the Jets expected when they paid him that, pretty good contract they gave him. I think it was like $48 million over 4 years, maybe. Didn't really live up to that. The Giants did not put the tag on Barkley or Xavier McKinney. So potentially they lose their best offensive player this offseason, which would be, I think, detrimental to them. We'll get into that a little bit. Matthew, what do you think about the Giants and what they're going to do in the free agency?
Yeah, I mean, what the salary cap space are right now, it's about 40 for the Giants and 30 for the Jets. Let's assume they make some restructures. We're going to give ourselves basically, we're just going to go through some targets. 50 million for the Giants, 40 million for the Jets. Who should they get? But from the Giants, I think not tagging Saquon Barkley, I think that's the right decision because there are so many running backs this year on the market. There are so many, and I keep seeing the media saying, Saquon Barkley is going to get a great deal. Are the Giants going to match? I don't think he is, quite frankly. I think, why would you? I mean, maybe Saquon Barkley is the best of the running back bunch, but why wouldn't you explore an Austin Eckler or a Derrick Henry or a Tony Pollard? I'm missing some. There are some really good running backs out in the market, and even if you miss on Saquon Barkley, the running back market's simply going to be depressed. It's going to be depressed. It's going to be low. So I would slot in on one of those other guys. I think you have an adequate replacement. I think they're whatever, their heartstrings attached, whatever, for Saquon Barkley. But at the end of the day, I think that's the right decision. Xavier McKinney is the one that maybe they should have tagged him because there are not that many safeties out in the market. Kyle Duggar of the Patriots was tagged, and so was Antoine Winfield of the Bucks. Those are the other two free agent safeties. So Xavier McKinney might get a nice deal that the Giants are simply not going to want to match. So that's the guy I would have tagged. I would have tagged him. And I'm not sure it's necessarily a priority to resign him, but I think it would be nice because they still have Jason Pinnock, he was a really nice safety this year. And they have Dane Belton, who they drafted, who shows some promise. But I think no, I think you have to at least explore re-signing Xavier McKinney and give him an offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Giants actually now, Matthew, you mentioned safety. The Bills actually released Jordan Poyer, so there's another safety becoming available. Pretty
Mhm.
solid safety there. And they also released cornerback Tre'Davious White. So I mean, what Bills just absolutely cleaning house. I understand making the cap room for with the cuts of these guys, but I mean that is just two foundational players defensively for the Bills. I mean that's going to hurt them. I don't know what their
Mhm.
plans are, but that is huge. And the Giants can maybe go after Poyer now since he's available, and maybe they lose out on McKinney. So we'll see what happens there. As for the
Yeah.
Jets, I think there's two obvious positions that they have to go after. It's wide receiver and it's offensive line. I think that wide receiver, look, the options, dwindled down after some news recently. Mike Evans re-signed with the Buccaneers. I don't think it was really realistic for him to become available. I
Yes.
always thought he was coming back to the Bucs, and he officially re-signed there. I think on Monday. And then you had Michael Pittman getting tagged by the Colts, so he's off the market. So options dwindling down for the Jets. I think some top targets that I would like them to go after. Mike Williams. The only thing with Mike Williams is he doesn't stay healthy, but when he's on the field, he's a really good wide receiver.
Mhm. Up, John. I think you cut out. Um, no, I agree. I think the Jets need wide receiver help. One other guy is Kendrick Bourne for the Jets. I saw maybe rumors for him. I don't know if that's like, I don't know if the Jets are, no, you have a guy like Garrett Wilson. Is it necessarily smart to get like that Mike Evans, Devontae Adams that maybe
Mhm.
we were dreaming about like week 8 the season? Maybe not like that other elite wide receiver, but I would just add some depth because that was a big problem. There was no depth at wide receiver. So I think even a Kendrick Bourne at the right price adds a lot of what the Jets are looking for. And no, one thing obviously both for the Jets and Giants is offensive line help. And honestly, I'm looking at the market. There are not a lot of guys. I think that's one thing that both teams are going to address through the draft. But no, I wouldn't be opposed. No, the Jets are paying Laken Tomlinson's salary at the minimum. I would pick up a Laken Tomlinson for depth. Maybe he can fight for a starting position for the Giants, or even maybe I sound crazy. Maybe this guy's just going to retire. But as a third or fourth tackle, Dwayne Brown, not as a starting tackle like the Jets did, but
Yeah,
these are
same.
depth options that I would at least consider. I don't know if the Giants plan on replacing Evan Neal with like one of their top picks. I'm not sure, but that's something. Depth at offensive line is the Giants and Jets offensive line. Also, I don't know, maybe it's the MetLife turf. They always seem to get hurt. One thing I want to invest in for both teams is they don't have a great starting unit as it is, but let's also build depth for that in competition.
Yeah, some other guys that actually become available recently is Trent Brown from the Patriots. He's all right. Good target maybe, but I don't know if he's going to command a lot of money. And Tyron Smith from the Cowboys has recently become
Yeah,
available.
that's a big
They
one.
just released him. So I think that, and look, he's old, but Matthew, he is when he's out on the field, he's one of the best tackles in the league. So I think the Jets have to consider that, and the Giants as well for that matter. They both have to, I think, at least explore that, right? We'll see. I don't know what the money's going to be there. Probably not a lot, right? Because he's an older player. He's made his money. Maybe
Hmm.
I think the Cowboys are probably paying some of his salary this year, right, with the cut. I don't know how
Yep.
that would work, but I think the Jets should heavily consider that to play right tackle over there and then draft your left tackle in the draft, right? So I think that would make perfect sense. And then another guy, Mike Unwanu, that just did not get tagged by the Patriots, so now he's hitting the open market. That plays right tackle, so that would be a solid pick. There's options out there, but once you get past those top guys at free agency, not a lot of like a lot of depth options and not really starters that you were really looking at to improve your team. So we'll see what happens during the free agency period. Um, Other wide receivers I want to mention is Tyler Boyd. He's not available on the open market, but a trade, I think, with the Bengals because the Bengals have to pay T. Higgins eventually. They're going to let go potentially Boyd. I saw that idea being floated out there on Twitter. If you could, maybe a third round pick, fourth round pick to get Tyler Boyd, I think he's a solid compliment. As you said, Matthew, they don't have to get that, superstar dream guy like Adams or Evans. Get a guy like Boyd. He provides 800 yards, and then you have a good compliment to Garrett Wilson and add some other
Hmm.
depth, maybe a Kendrick Bourne for that matter as well. So
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty solid. So we'll see what they do. I mean, they have to get those two positions, both teams. I think the Giants have to go safety and lineman is a priority. Jets have to go lineman and wide receiver.
Yeah.
And
One.
potentially maybe, I don't even
Hmm.
know defensively if the Jets really need much, to be honest with you. Maybe edge, another edge
Yeah.
guy, since they're going to probably
One.
lose Bryce Huff.
Yeah, one other thing for the Giants, I would explore the edge. I would explore the edge market. Like you mentioned, I would explore Bryce Huff. I would explore Danielle Hunter, the best, I would say maybe the best guy on the overall market. He's just turned 29, entering his prime. He's going to command, I think $20 million. Let's see what Spot Track has him. Yeah, $20 million a
I
year for 3 years. But that's a guy that has 100 career sacks, and he's only 29. The
yeah.
Giants, though, they have Kayvon Thibodeau. They don't have that other, edge rusher on the other side. The Giants have really struggled to generate pressure, on the outside. They have Dexter Lawrence on the inside. I think that could be it'd be a big splash, but I think it could be an interesting play. And then same also Giants. Or I think they're gonna most likely think they're gonna make a move for maybe not one of the top cornerbacks on the market, but a good cornerback that you've heard of.
Yeah. Yeah. Matthew, great episode. Hopefully, look,
Mhm.
Matthew, I was hoping for news to break during this episode with the trade deadline. Nothing really happened. I'm
Yeah.
still
Oh
checking
well.
Twitter. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I think you might see. Oh, let's see. So we got same thing. Jake Ensel sweepstakes are down to the Rangers, Hurricanes, and Golden Knights per Frank Cervelli.
Good
So
for the
that
Golden
takes
Knights.
the Canucks out of there. And I don't see the Golden Knights. I mean, they just acquired Hannafin. I don't see them going. So I mean, look, this might be coming a possibility soon. We'll see. I don't know. I think the Penguins are just holding out to the end to get the best offer. I believe in the end. I think one team's gonna become desperate and they're gonna get the deal done. They're definitely gonna trade him. I don't think there's a chance he stays with the Penguins because they're in total
Yeah.
disarray. I think they have to get as much assets from these guys as possible. I think Matthew, the Penguins should at least consider. I know Sidney Crosby is the Penguins. He's the franchise, but consider maybe letting go of him in the offseason. I mean, get as much assets as you can, right? I mean, you have to go towards a total rebuild here. The Penguins look terrible. They're old, and they have to get as much assets as they can. I think Crosby would make sense if they traded him. I get if you hold off on that because of how much he means to that franchise, but Penguins, they're going to trade Gensel, and they might trade Crosby soon. And I would
Yeah,
at least
no,
consider
the Penguins are in a really tough spot. Really, not because of Crosby and Gensel, but because of Malkin and Letang. Those contracts
Yeah,
are
really bad.
really bad. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Crosby's gonna happen. But I think Gensel's. I think he's likely to go. I think but I think the Rangers. One thing is if the Penguins are looking to, somehow turn around and buy free agency. I don't know what they're going to do. The tax on the Rangers, the interdivisional tax, is something to watch. Just the
Yeah,
Rangers might
I
have to
think
go.
they did say Kyle Dubas is kind of newer, and he really wouldn't take that much shock to it if he's getting the best return from the Rangers. So I wouldn't look. I mean, you saw Ottawa and what is it called for Tarasenko? That was interdivision, right? So
Florida,
I don't
sure,
think
yeah.
that's. I think that look, maybe that plays some stock into it, but I don't think it should be really a deal breaker at the end. I don't think it's really
But
the Rangers
Tarasenko was
offer a
also
great
on a
package.
1-year deal,
Yeah, and he had
so
a no
that
move
doesn't
clause.
in the
That did
future.
have you're right. He had a lot of,
Yeah.
say into that decision. But we'll see, Matthew. Hopefully big move
Mhm.
comes soon. I do think it's gonna be an exciting few days, even for just hockey fans overall. So I think it's gonna be good. A lot of guys are available and gonna get traded. So it's gonna be exciting. And great episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one.